what made me actually want to do What's Normal was when I first heard a lady speak called Melinda Tankard-Reist, who speaks on the harms of pornography to young people and the sexualisation of girls and the objectification of women. And I went along to this talk thinking it was going to be, you're all beautiful and, women are photoshopped, and it was the complete opposite. It unpacked what living in a pornified culture looks like and how the effects of the imagery that we see constantly portraying women as objects and over-sexualising girls has on our behaviours and who we think we are as girls growing up in our culture. So had my eyes opened up to this whole issue, and within 3 days of recognising that this was an issue and almost putting a larger voice to that little voice inside of me for so many years that I thought it was my fault that I didn't want to do certain things that boys asked me to do, or I thought it was my fault that I wasn't pretty enough, or I wasn't thin enough, or I wasn't good enough. Like, all of those messages that I was getting actually just suppressed that little voice inside of me. And so what Melinda's talk did was actually open my eyes up to these issues and help me recognise that it wasn't my fault, and it was actually a culture around me that said that it was normal. I ended up 3 days later starting a campaign to get Zoo Weekly out of Coles and Woolworths. And then from that, 4 weeks later, it had 40,000 signatures on it. Coles decided to take it off the shelves, and then in tow, the entire magazine shut down. So that was like a huge win, but and something that I never expected to happen. Nor did I think I was actually ever going to be speaking about the harms of pornography and living in a pornified culture. So what we do is we unpack tricky topics that are facing young people today, and we give them insight into their culture in a way that they'll understand. So we unpack topics like pornography, like sending nudes, social media, how that affects our mental health, how that affects our body image. We unpack everyday life of a teenager, really, and dramatise the stories that we're hearing every day from young people. So what I would say to university students is that they have a lot of power to actually change culture. They're the future leaders, they're the future teachers, they're the future role models for the younger generation. Culture can only change when people decide to do something different and disrupt the current norms. So what I would say to university students is educate yourself, question the culture around you, and don't be afraid to be disruptive to that culture. Pornography doesn't have their best interests at heart. It's actually not healthy for their sexuality. It's actually not going to teach them about what a real healthy relationship looks like. All it's going to do is set false expectations of what's normal. Every tiny little act that we choose to do actually influences the world around us. And so for people to be encouraged by that and to know that they actually have the power to change.